Wow, we have K7 from TKA here in the studio here. This is this is wild because I don't know, you know, a lot of people obviously remember Come Baby Come and all your music, but like you were on KTU back in the day.
Yes.
And I was trying to rack my brain. I think it was like when I first started, we had a little bit of overlap.
Yeah, I met you when you first started at the station. I was still here. I was doing overnights.
Wasn't I doing like weekends or something? Weekend
yes.
overnights or something?
Yes, that's what we were doing. I was doing Sunday overnights right after Judy's show. At the time, it was the Freestyle Free For All for Judy.
Yes.
And I was doing overnights then. I had come up. I one time I worked for Emma's for Hot 97, and I had come from Emma's to over here, and I did what I think 6 years here.
Yeah, it's so wild, and I love how everything just comes full circle.
Yeah.
You know, do you remember how to do everything here? Like, do you remember does it look familiar?
I remember some of it. The Vox Pro machine over there, I remember a lot because that was my favorite thing to do. I loved recording listeners and editing the calls and having fun with them.
That's like the true producer in you speaking out. It's very similar, I'm sure. But, you know, the one thing I wanted to say was thank you for joining us for KTUphoria. We are now days away.
Yes.
And we're not the only ones celebrating a big birthday or anniversary.
Right.
Right? Come Baby Come is turning 30.
Come Baby Come is turning 30, which means like songs like Maria. Think about how old those songs. You know, Maria is like, right now, it's probably like 34. Because I released that song. That was the last TKA song that we released before I did the K7. And that was, I think, a year or so prior, or a couple of years. Well, I wrote it a couple of years prior to it, but we released it right before, a year and a half or two before Come Baby Come came out.
Isn't it wild seeing people, because you're still doing like the performing at clubs and certain freestyle events, like people just singing along, and it's, you know, like it was yesterday that the song came out.
The funniest thing is that freestyle has more life now than in its heyday. Now we pack more clubs and arenas more than we did when we first started it. You know, it feels like the way that the fans treat it, they say it's feel-good music for them. It brings them back, but it also fills the void for them. You know, that they feel like they need this type of sound today.
I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. I have a theory.
Okay.
I think that people, the new generation, the attention spans are just not what they used to be. I think that with this TikTok generation, you get like a song that might be popular for 5 minutes because it's trending. It's trending audio. But like you came out the days before this trending audio system.
Well, I think it's influence. I think the influence that we had musically, the groups that were influencing us, whether it be Latin music or, you know, R&B or dance music at the time, these groups were setting down a foundation of what the lyrical content and you know, the music behind it. And what's happened over the years, they wanted it quicker and faster. Mm-hmm. So I think they start, for some groups, I don't want to say all, but they start putting their heart and soul into it. And I think the audience sees it. The audience knows that it's cookie cutter. So, you know, for the TikTok generation, it's cool because the 30 seconds that they're dancing or doing a dance move online are the 30 seconds that they like most of the record. And they won't like the rest of it, you know what I mean?
Sure. It's like, wait, I didn't even know that was part of the same song.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the one thing that I am noticing, and I noticed this was very popular with like your music and just freestyle in general, is like the sampling. And now we're starting to see that come back. I think that this new generation is heavily influenced by the 90s.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that? Like how did that become part of your creative process, but also like making original music?
For me, you know, back then when we were making this music, like I was going to the clubs then. I was, you know, still a teen and you know, turning 20 and wanting to just party. So I wanted to somehow like feel myself, feel my roots, feel my Latino roots, feel my, you know, my urban roots of having that, you know, that thump, you know, that feel good sing along, you know, music. And most of my peers at the time, you know, whether it was hip hop or whether it's R&B or whether it was dance music, it was the New York sound.
Yeah, I think that's like
was
what
a
it comes.
communal sound.
I talked to George Lamont, I talked to Coro, and I
Yeah.
feel like it all comes back to that. Everyone said the same thing.
New York had its sound. New York had this, now it's more universal, but, New York really dictated what the sound of the country felt like. And it gave its heart, and you felt the heart behind it, And I think that nowadays, that heart is lacking. I think that, for the most part, I don't want to sound like
no, it's not.
old
It's
guy
not
in the
every.
room.
No, it's not. I'm not okay boomering you at all. It's like, it's not everybody, but like there is now like a formula, and I think it's so much more accessible to be able to just produce your own music from home. Like anybody with an iPhone can do it technically, but it doesn't mean that it's the same as it was.
Right, and it's harder. We have other resources now. There's so many. Terrestrial radio, which was important for us, it is now has to compete with, the Spotifys and all these different things now, which are great, to have the option, but radio's so important.
I know. I'm
radio
so glad.
Is so
we're still
important.
kicking. Thank God.
Yeah.
We're still
radio
kicking.
Is so important because, that's the gateway to. You could still get these other sounds, but it's the gateway to letting you know what everyone likes, as opposed to, you may like said artist, but she may never hear that artist, if you don't have a conversation, And radio helped the conversation happen. You know what I mean? For me,
we do our best, but I can only imagine what it's like to be an artist and hearing your song for the very first time on the radio, and how that's got to be different than just hearing it on like a TikTok. Because
it's the best feeling ever. It's the best feeling ever. The only thing that could surpass that is being in a club, going there with your friends, having a drink in your hand, and all of a sudden your song pops up, and you're not performing, but you hear the crowd roar and get excited and rush to the dance floor to dance to your record. That's the best feeling, other than hearing your song on a radio station.
I can think of something else that might be pretty cool. A couple of years ago, when Suicide Squad came out, how did that happen? Because Come Baby Come ended up on that soundtrack, and it's like, okay, do you just like get to kick back and enjoy those residuals? Like, how does that work?
Trust me, it was amazing. I didn't know, to be honest with you, that it was going to be in the movie until 24 hours before it came out. And I had already planned with my family to go see the movie.
Wait, what?
It's the funniest thing ever. A lot of my family are Paterson, New Jersey police officers, right? So they usually do this thing that like once or twice a month, we all get together at a theater and we watch movies together. Usually it's the superhero movies. So anything Marvel, anything DC, we go see. And we had planned to go to the movies, and it was the one night that, my sons wanted to go, my nieces and nephews wanted to go, my sister, her husband wanted to go, my wife wanted to go, and we were all ready to go. And the day before, my former manager, Joey Gardner, calls me up and says, "Hey, I don't want to scare you, but I got great news." I said, "What?" He goes, "Come Baby Come is in the movie, and it's a 1.5-minute segment. Usually these segments are like 30 seconds." He says it's a 1.5 minutes of the song. I'm like, what?
So that's crazy. Like I thought there was like, I don't know,
No,
because
it's
I don't know how it works. I
fight
figured
scene
like
for
there's
her.
like a whole bunch of emails that go off back and forth for a couple months, or
Well,
like,
there usually is, and and I would get those from Tommy Boy at the time, or Warner, or Michelle Bear, who handles my music being on TV soundtracks and stuff like that. And I guess Joey wanted to surprise me and make it a surprise, right? Because it was such a big thing. And I had to bite my tongue and not tell my family for 24 hours.
Did they freak out when you were in the theater?
My niece and my nephew and my middle son, I have 3 kids, my middle kid, jumped up. He says, "Dad, we're rich. We're rich."
Congratulations, Dad.
And my niece and nephew doing like, little dances. And I'm like,
that's a huge deal being in a DC film. Like that, I mean, wow.
And it was like, the thing for me, I've had songs in movies before. Come Baby Come has been the gift that keeps giving, because it's been in so many different things in commercials.
Yeah, I was gonna say the commercials
from
too.
IKEA commercials overseas to TV shows. To see it, to be there, and
30
watch,
years later,
30 years
that
later,
it's still
after
relevant.
the fact, and to see how long the scene was. For me, it felt great. I was like, oh my God. I fell in love with
So like Harley Quinn, like flipping out of the
Yes.
thing, and like
I'm like, oh, I love Margot Robbie. I'm gonna forever love Margot Robbie. Now,
yeah,
you know?
I think that's so funny that was your niece's reaction.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're rich.
We're rich.
It's like, no, congratulations, now we're rich.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
But it's been really cool. It's been really cool to see it, the resurgence and the popularity of the song. People asking me for the song, it being asked to be on other things.
I had it on a Jock Jam CD.
Yeah,
I forget which one, but
and that's how it originally got on. Fat Man Scoop at the time was working for Tommy Boy, and he had that whole Jock Jams deal, and he helped us get on.
I mean, I used to play that. I used to DJ in an ice rink, and like that song, oh man, every single live DJ night, that would come on because it got people skating faster.
Yeah, and the DJs have been sampling it. Just the year before it was on Suicide Squad, a set of DJs that are part of the Diplo camp. They were called Twerk, believe it or not, and they sampled it and.
Oh yeah, you hear it has like a more of an EDM beat behind it. I think I've heard that before.
Yeah. And it was so cool. I was like, okay, cool. You know, if it's gonna give me more life, you know.
So you don't get mad. You don't get mad that they're like.
Not, you know, I get mad when people try to be slick and not pay for it. You know, because this is how we make our bread and butter. You know, but like I realized that even though it's still a plus. There's still something good at the end of it when they do that. Of course, they're gonna have to, we're gonna have to work something out. But it's still a good thing because it brings attention to us, whoever gets sampled, right? And it gives us new life. Of course, I've been working constantly, where people think freestyle has been dead or where they think our careers have been over. The funniest thing is that we're still working constantly every single weekend.
It's like the people that were like, I don't listen to the radio. It's like, okay, why are you saying that? It's just mean. Like, it's not true. I mean, it's just every industry is going to evolve. Yeah. And we're going to learn new pieces of software. We're going to learn on new pieces of equipment. And we're going to just, we're going to become internet personalities too. And musically, I mean, you're still doing these shows and doing KTUphoria coming up in just a couple of days. Like, what can the fans expect to see? Like the old fans and now the new ones.
Classic fans will still see the same energy that TK had in our heyday back in the day. Newer fans, and the younger audience are going to say, wow, this is what my mom used to dance to. And they're going to be impressed. They're going to be like, I would pay to go see those guys. For the freestyle segment, they're going to see the influence that we've had over so many of what is now the Latin movement, whether that be reggaeton or whether that be people like J-Lo. You'll see that we are the groups that influence,
you
the Ricky Martins.
Paved the way for like the Pitbulls.
Yes.
And J-Lo and Ricky Martin, as you said. That's incredible. And what about the choreo? You got
the choreo is there. The choreo
is the same.
It's the same. It hasn't left, and we're still jumping around, as we always have, and we can't wait to entertain you guys.
Awesome. Well, you guys can still grab your tickets, Ticketmaster.com, while they still last, or you can tune in here and try to win your way in. Thanks, K7.
Let's do it.